Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Megan Sachs and I'm a criminologist. As part of my career in this field, I study the causes of crime and I try to explain why crimes happen, including crimes that may seem inexplicable, like the ones that recently occurred in Moscow, Idaho. Early in the morning hours of November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were murdered in their home while they slept. The 4 had all been out the evening before, as typical college students do, Zaina and Ethan at his fraternity house, Kaylee and Madison going to a few bars before stopping at a food truck on their return home. The young victims, whose bedrooms were located on the 2nd and 3rd floors of their off-campus house, were all stabbed multiple times, and some reportedly had defensive wounds. There were also 2 other roommates in the house at the time who lived on the 1st floor and who were not harmed and were ruled out as suspects early on. Like so many others, I was shocked by this horrific crime and gripped by the coverage that followed it. And like you, I've checked every day to see when a suspect would be apprehended in this awful crime. And finally, yesterday on December 30th, 2022, a suspect was taken into custody for the murders of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. It's been over 6 long weeks since that crime, and some critics were getting frustrated with the progress of the investigation. But according to the police at a press conference yesterday, they had to investigate over 19,000 tips they received. Some were upset that the Moscow Police Department had kept information so close to the vest, but one important detail they did share was that they were looking for a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra that was seen in the immediate vicinity during the time of the murder. I've read reports that a car matching that make and model was recovered in Pennsylvania during the arrest. The suspect, 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger, was arrested around 3 a.m. in the morning near Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and brought to the Monroe County Correctional Facility, which is just behind me. Kohberger was arraigned yesterday and is being held without bail until his extradition to Idaho. Now, there's a lot of speculation about the motives here or the possible relationship between the offender and the victims. There will be much more on this topic specifically, I'm sure, as the evidence is revealed. And as a criminologist, that is certainly something I plan to examine further. But right now, we simply don't have enough information to do so. Which brings me to the other reason I came today. The suspect is working towards his PhD in criminology and criminal justice at Washington State University. And specifically, you can see online that he's working on research that studies criminal offending, which has fueled quite some speculation. Kohberger was conducting a study on the traits that influence decision-making when someone is committing a crime. He posted a survey on a Reddit group of ex-felons, asking specific participants to identify their thoughts and feelings at the various stages of committing a crime, from the selection of a victim or target to the planning of a crime, the actual commission of a crime, and the aftermath. Now, the speculation is that if he is guilty, then this was his way of studying for his crimes, for preparing. This may very well be true, and this may have been his way of collecting both intel and insight, or it may be that the research fueled an interest in offending. But I also want to point out that this type of research that he was conducting is not uncommon in the field of criminology and criminal justice. This type of survey, known as self-report data, is one of a few main methods by which we collect information about criminal offending by going directly to the source and asking offenders to self-report information about their crimes, anonymously, of course. When first introduced, there was some skepticism about this kind of research and whether anyone who committed a crime would participate, but they do. And because of this research, we have gathered rich information about criminal offenses that may not have been reported. And self-report data can be used for comparison with national crime statistics gathered by law enforcement. We also gain valuable information about ways to prevent crime when reviewing self-report data. So while it's possible there could be some pathology interwoven with Kohberger's interests, his research interests, for now, Bryan Kohberger is a suspect, and we should keep in mind that his crimes are alleged. And we have not seen any evidence yet due to Idaho law. Though police and the district attorney held a joint press conference yesterday, They were unable to release the details of the probable cause affidavit that led to Mr. Kohberger's arrest. That Idaho law that prevents the release of this information does, however, allow for that information to be made public once the suspect is extradited. Kohberger will be back in court on Tuesday in Pennsylvania, where he can choose to waive extradition back to Idaho or try to fight it. I'll be following the case closely, and I sincerely hope that we are looking at a case where justice will be served.